So this footage comes to us from the police activity channel. Basically, these officers had received a notification that there was a stolen vehicle driving in the immediate area around them. So they responded to the area, and the helicopter was already up in that general area, and the helicopter ends up spotting the vehicle up. We're gonna watch the video one time through, and then there's some stuff going on that I want to talk about.
Dogs on the ground. Alright, I'm gonna have the radio, please. Vehicle's taking off. Head on for Uncle Sam, stand by. Let zero know, please, let zero know. Where they at, Johnny? Right behind you, they got him cornered in, stand by. Western entrance. Stand by. Alright, I need more units down there, please. Canine, there's one more in the back. Tony, there's one guy in the back still in the car. Just hold your position. Everybody hold tight. There's still more guys in the vehicle. Hold tight.
Now, I don't know if any of these guys are any sort of like specialized unit. There is some unmarked vehicles that are here, so that kind of leads me to believe that there might be, but nothing really says if it was just patrol officers or a specialized unit. So we'll look at this from a patrol sort of point of view. You know, patrol typically doesn't receive as much training in certain aspects of methods to contain people and handle situations like this. So the first sort of thing, I can't really tell because the helicopter is zoomed in so much on the suspect's vehicle because he's trying to get the license plate. So I can't really tell like the timing of everything, like when this guy starts to back up. I'm almost believed to incline he starts backing up because he sees the red and blue lights on this unmarked either Tahoe or Suburban. But if that guy had just waited like an extra second or two before he actually activated his lights and got up right on the suspects, it could have prevented a lot of the issues, because it would have pretty much prevented the guy from fleeing. So that's the first sort of deal. Is I would have preferred to see this guy get as close as humanly possible to this vehicle, at the rear, to pin it in from the rear. You know, if your policy doesn't allow you to actually make contact with the vehicle, then don't make contact. But if you can get within a couple inches, it's better than where he is, because obviously this guy is able to just reverse out of there and get out of there. And then again, when the truck starts coming up, and the vehicle had backed up even more, the guy in the Chevy could have very easily just turned his wheel hard to the right and gotten directly in front of it, which would have prevented it from continuing to go forward. Now, that would have also probably led to the vehicle continuing to back up out of that exit, and then a pursuit is on, but you already have a helicopter overhead. So if you don't have a pursuit policy that allows you to actually chase this vehicle, then the helicopter can just follow it wherever it's going, and you can just kind of trail behind safely and still be fairly effective at getting the suspects in custody and putting these guys in jail. But obviously that doesn't work, so the vehicle goes around them, and thank God this other officer zooms in from that side and blocks that exit. If this driver of the stolen vehicle was super crazy, they definitely could have probably just sideswiped the hell out of this thing and kept going, but they decided they didn't want to do that day, and so they decided to reverse again. And that's where my second issue with this whole deal kind of comes in. This officer that blocks the vehicle in, he gets out of his car and starts approaching it. as it's backing up. I don't understand this because obviously the vehicle still hasn't been contained. There's another exit out of this parking lot. So, like, there's no way possible that he knows that this car is about to become trapped for the most part. I mean, it stops, but there's no way he can know that. And so, why you would place yourself in this exact position where if the car decides to send it straight at you, you have pretty much nowhere to go, and then you force yourself into a shooting situation. I just don't get it. Like, just get back in your car when it starts reversing and go back after it, because it very well could turn into a full-blown pursuit here. But it doesn't. The vehicle kind of traps itself in the front with a pole, and then the two actual marked units come up and sort of pin the passenger side of the vehicle as one of the passengers is getting out. And then the officer who had trapped them from exiting that exit is in probably one of the worst positions possible. Again, this is why it would have just been better to just stay in your car and go back after it in the car, because had he done that, he would have been able to pull up behind the vehicle and fully trap it, and then get out, circle around his vehicle, and get online with these other two marked units that came up on the passenger side. Because right now, if a shooting breaks out, let's say he is the one being engaged, not only does he not have concealment or cover, but when he has to then engage those threats back, he is shooting at, or rather, in the direction of other officers, which is definitely not what we want to do. So you have the guy jump out of the passenger side of the stolen vehicle. At the same time, the driver is also getting out with his hands up, which is good. But the passenger looks like he's about to start running. And so the one officer decides to focus on him, while the officer that came out of that Chevy decides to put himself in a terrible position and circle around to that driver's side and go hands on with this driver. Again, this is what I'm going to say, what I'm going to continue to say. I've said it in the past. Like, there's no reason to push a vehicle and drag people out of that vehicle. There's very specific situations where you might have to do that, but this is not one of those situations. So the officer that came out of that Tahoe essentially puts himself in one of the worst positions he can be in, and we'll see that further here in a second. But the other guy gets on the ground, they start putting people in custody, and you got some more officers pulling up. And then this is the freeze frame where it's just apparently obvious that the guy on the driver's side is in the worst possible position. The guy that had gotten the driver, at the front of the stolen vehicle, it's not an ideal position. It's not where you want to be, but it's definitely not as bad, because at least there's not a priority of fire issue here. But there's at least one other person still in this vehicle in the back seat. And so if that guy had become a threat, there's almost no way, at least that I can tell based on this footage, that the officer who had just run up at the top of your screen would know that he is on the ground putting this guy into custody right now. And so you have the officer that just ran up, and then the officer on the bottom side of the two Tahoes, the marked units, and they are both at this exact moment pointing their guns in the direction of their partner. So again, it just further solidifies the point why you shouldn't be rushing a vehicle and causing more issues. It's dumb, it's dangerous, and there's no reason to do that. So what would the ideal situation look like once this vehicle actually came to a stop? Now, again, ideally, the officer who blocked in the suspects from the front when he was coming out that exit, ideally he would have gotten back in his car and pulled forward after the vehicle, and then once it started trying to do its turn and got blocked by that pole, he could have very easily pulled up behind it and blocked it from then reversing again as the two marked units are coming in and pinning the passenger side of the vehicle, and they're getting out, getting guns on the car. And then all that officer would have had to do was circle around his shop, get online with those other two officers, and started calling people out. You already have a helicopter overhead. if that guy that had jumped out and gotten on the hood starts running, he's gonna be able to track him down and keep eyes on him pretty easily. And then obviously you have that other unmarked truck who comes up, so he could then, instead of going to the vehicle, start going after that suspect himself and get that guy himself. Then once you have the vehicle contained, and let's just say that nobody had actually ran, everybody gave up, then you just start your typical felony stop call out procedures. You don't go to the car, you maintain concealment slash cover being behind your vehicle, and you just call people back to you to a space that you control. You have them show their waistband by grabbing the back of their collar and lifting their shirt up so you can tell if they have something in their waistbands. And then you call them back to you and you get them in custody that way. With all that being said, guys, I hope that gives you some ideas of what you should be thinking about. And, if you are on a specialized unit who does this kind of stuff, vehicle containments and stuff, it gives you something to think about and maybe implement if you aren't already doing this in your standard practice. So I hope it helped. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel for more, because I'm going to have more stuff coming out like this. There's already some stuff on my channel, but I'm going to keep putting this stuff out and trying to help officers who maybe work for smaller departments or departments that don't really provide a lot of actual training besides like the BS state mandated stuff that really doesn't give you any training. So I'm going to keep putting this stuff out. So if you liked it, make sure to do all the things, and thanks for watching the video.